a nasty habit of parentifying our children,
Mm-hmm.
where we go to our children and we vent and we talk about, send the child support, he's not answering my call, yada, yada, yada. So what you do, you give your children the impression that this person is irresponsible, evil, doesn't love them, all that kind of stuff, which is not necessarily true. Because what I try to share with parents is that, you know what you need to look at? We are all human beings, individuals before we became parents.
Right.
And we all have had issues and life challenges before we become parents. And even becoming parent does not evaporate these issues. And there really are some people who can't simultaneously deal with their issues and parent. And for men, it's easier for them to just walk. Women do it too by dropping off the kids by the grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to say to your children, he has some issues that he needs to work out, and it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Again, the way how men communicate. Women are the ones who you have an issue, you sit down with your group of friends and you talk. You vent with each other. And at the end of that, we feel good. Men don't do that. Men, what they call, go into their cave. And women will say, him heartless in the loving picnic. But you know what? Studies have shown that men's emotions are actually deeper than a woman's emotion. The reason we don't see it, it's because society have conditioned boys and men that they're not supposed to show their emotions because it's a sign of weakness.
Right.
He disappears, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. He's also suffering, but how he deals with his suffering is silently and alone. But how a mother deals with her suffering is to have a community of women who she vents with. But it doesn't mean because he's not displaying his frustration, his hurt in the way that you as a woman would do, doesn't mean that he's not feeling pain either. Men just respond differently to the emotional pain that they feel. Some may pacify it with alcohol or drugs. Some just say they can't. And again, in socializing, we don't teach boys how to process their emotions. These boys become men, and when they have that kind of emotional weight on them, they don't know how to process it. Society already told them that they're not supposed to be so open with their emotions. What do you do as a man, Kevin? You pull away.
That's typically what I do. I've come to that realization, or I came to that realization some time ago, way back. That is what I do. So
and that's what most men do, because we have not socialized boys who then become men how to really process information, how to process their emotions.
Their emotions, yes.
And how men process their emotions is very different from how women do it. A woman can easily just go to a therapist and spend a whole year just talking to a therapist. A man thinks automatically he needs to go solve this thing himself. And he goes into this cave-like mode to try and figure out how is he going to solve it. And for a lot of men, when they get really emotional, they pull away. And that pulling away, women interpret it as being cold and heartless, which is not necessarily the case. It's just that they respond differently. And some women are like, yeah, you're picking up for men. It's just that men and women process things differently. You want him to process things the way you and your girlfriend process things, and it's not the case. So that's why sometimes I said you have to sometimes be the one to still have that door open. Yes, we're not together. I have my emotional issues relating to you, but you know what? My child's well-being is way more important. And let him know that it is safe for him to still come around, even if he doesn't have the full child support, to have that kind of relationship with his children. And he might not even tell you how much he was hurt by the breakup, Again, women cry and vent to everybody about the breakup. Men go silently inward and don't say anything. Actually, research show that men take a longer time to recover from breakups compared to women. But
Hmm.
you might think, oh, he's in the club next week. He's over
Right.
it. No, it's just his way of trying to deal with it, but emotionally it's still underneath. So we have to realize that both male and female process things differently. And we parent differently too. So having the child experience both the male and the female form of parenting is very critical for your child.